Military aid to Ukraine and let Putin to win the war?
Well, I'm very worried. I'm very worried first that he's going to withdraw from NATO. I think many in Europe think that it's just rhetoric, that he's just using the threat to withdraw to get them to do what they should have done over the last 10 years anyway, which is increase their defense spending to 2% of their GDPs. It's not a bargaining tactic by Trump. Hundreds of people, thousands of people over the years, myself included, have urged our friends in Europe to increase their defense spending to make NATO stronger. Trump is urging the point about increasing defense spending to drive a wedge in to get an excuse to withdraw from NATO. And that's one of the imperative reasons I hope he's not elected president. On Ukraine specifically, and I might say, if Trump began a withdrawal process, Putin would just sit back and let Trump do his work for him, because a collapsed NATO obviously couldn't defend Ukraine. But Trump has also said on the campaign trail that he would get Zelensky and Putin in a room together and solve the problem in 24 hours. That, of course, is ridiculous, and such an effort would fail. If it did fail, who would be responsible? Not Donald Trump, because he never fails. So it's going to have to be either Zelensky or Putin. And that's where I think Trump's affinity with Putin would be very dangerous, because I think the blame could fall on Zelensky unfairly, but it would fall on Zelensky.
Countries that rely a lot on American weapons and on American funds.
I think people should understand Trump is serious about wanting to withdraw from NATO. And the reason is he doesn't really fully understand alliance dynamics. He thinks we are providing protection for Europe, and in effect, we should be paid for it. Or at least Europeans should meet the 2% target and put more on defense than they are. I will tell you, 100% of Americans agree with Trump that everybody in Europe who's including our friends in Canada, by the way, who don't spend 2% of GDP, everybody in this country thinks that that NATO members should meet the 2% commitment. And as the world is increasingly dangerous, I think America's defense spending is going to go back to, certainly should go back to Reagan era levels between 5 and 6% of GDP, which means inevitably European levels of spending are going to have to come up from 2 to maybe 4% of GDP. So we're a long way from this being over. And if it doesn't happen, as I mentioned before, I think Trump will use the failure of NATO members to meet the target as evidence of bad faith and evidence why the U.S. should withdraw.
You describe the former president to be not so familiar with the world issues. For example, you write that Trump believed that Finlandia belongs to Russia. Do you think that meanwhile Trump has improved his preparation, or this lack of knowledge will be again an issue?
Well, you know, he didn't know much when he became president. He didn't know much when he left. I don't think he's been reading a lot over the last 3.5 years. In international relations, he thinks that if he has a good personal relationship with the leader of a country, Vladimir Putin, for example, then that means U.S.-Russian relations are good. And that's clearly not the case. I don't discount the importance of personal relationships, but Vladimir Putin knows what he wants. He knows what he thinks Russia's interests are. Xi Jinping knows what he thinks China's interests are. They're not swayed by a personal relationship with Donald Trump or anybody else. And it's why when Trump is in a bargaining context with leaders like that, he's hopelessly outclassed.
So,
yeah, you know, it's hard to say. I think Prime Minister Meloni has done a good job during her tenure in trying to stay close to the United States, working with the NATO alliance on Ukraine and other matters. Trump has had a famously unhappy relationship with female leaders like Prime Minister May of the United Kingdom, Chancellor Merkel of Germany. Whether he has a similarly difficult relationship with the Prime Minister of Italy, I don't know. We'll have to see. I would say it would be fun to watch, except a lot rides on it, and it's unfortunate that with such a close ally as Italy, it's uncertain how the relationship will play out.